Hello there. You're welcome to this course, the Irreconcilables. We will be considering how to build and sustain a crisis-proof marriage. Right here with you are Chidi,
and Victor Acuna,
fondly called the Romance and Intimacy
Intimacy
Catalyst.
Catalyst.
You're welcome on board.
Welcome on board. Alright, let's dive straight in. Okay, before we go into the course, we'd like to talk about who exactly are we. Alright, there's a picture on there. Alright, we run Foundation for Family Affairs. It's a charity that focuses on helping couples to focus on raising romantic and intimate couples across the globe. So if you're listening to this, that means you are right on target. You're one of our targets. Our goal is to help you improve your relationship, improve your marriage, and make it more romantic and intimate. Alright, so how do we carry this out? Basically, we use speaking engagements, we use seminars, we do it through workshops, to coaching, counseling, talk shows. We have a YouTube channel called The Romance TV. We use couples retreats. We have books we've written, which we'll be discussing with you in the next page. Alright, all this can be found on the website, which is foundationforfamilyaffairs.org.
www.foundationforfamilyaffairs.org. We want you to get to the right place, okay?
Right.
And these are some of our resources, okay? You have the relationship red flags for singles.
Yes.
Yeah, how to the subtitle is he a prospect or a suspect?
Exactly.
Okay, and then we've got the trendy teen. Parents, you can do well by picking a copy of this for your teenager. The trendy teen, the new definition of cool. That's the subtitle. And then we've got some audio materials, which we would often use in our romance masterclasses.
Yes.
We've got a package of 4, the spicy romance. We've got bedroom makeover plus. Yes, how to add the oomph to your bedroom life.
Yes.
And then we've got dynamics of marriage and wealth and health acceleration. Dynamics of marriage would cover the different phases of marriage, how to go navigate through the different phases of marriage. And then wealth and health acceleration, touching on money matters, health matters, and how they impact your romance.
Beautiful.
Okay, and you can get these materials on the site www.foundationforfamilyaffairs.org/shop-2.
All right, and each of these books come with a workbook, so it helps you sit down with your spouse and work through each of the lessons for the day. It's a 31-day program that helps you. All right, that helps you work together. Day 1, day 2, you discuss different issues, and you have a number of questions that you can work through together, because it's always lovely if you and your spouse are on the same page. It helps your marriage to soar and become much better. Right. So, what do we have today as our course objective? Number 1, we have basic facts. We'll be discussing and highlighting a number of basic facts about irreconcilables. Number 2, we'll be examining how do couples become irreconcilable. Alright?
Yeah.
And lastly, we're going to be focusing on what to do about it. How can we work around it? Okay?
Alrighty. Then first to be considering the definition of irreconcilable, which was taken from Oxford Dictionary. Impossible to find agreement between or with, it says.
Yes.
Okay, when we get to that point as a couple where it is impossible for us to reach an agreement, then we know, okay, this issue has become irreconcilable.
Exactly.
Where
everything becomes ballistic. Any little discussion becomes radioactive. You can't even reach any agreement. Now, it's important to point out that these were people who started as lovebirds.
Yeah.
These are people who started as best friends.
I mean, they used to go through the pillow talks.
Yes.
They would sit down and stare into each other's eyes.
Exactly.
Like they had no care in the world. Yeah, no problem at all.
Exactly.
And just think and just daydream about the future together. But now they've reached a point where they can't even stand each other's presence.
Now, if you find yourself in a situation like this, we're not judging you. We're just here to provide you the necessary tools for you to be able to navigate your relationship.
Absolutely.
You were used to be in the honeymoon period. Now you move to reconcilable. You can navigate it back to intimacy. All right, so we're going to be sharing some of these basic tips with you today. All right, basic facts. What are the basic facts? But before I talk on the basic fact, I'd like to quickly discuss a testimony of someone who joined our forum some time ago. Himself and his wife used to have a number of issues, and then he came to us and then he had a discussion. He said, that when he joined the forum, when he joined our membership, and then he started getting tips on a daily basis. We had discussion every week. We're having all kind of talk, and then this guy started improving and he started becoming more romantic. And then, he even went as far as going on YouTube to learn how to cook, because at one point your wife was complaining that I do all the cooking, you don't help anything, you don't do anything at home. He started learning all these tips. Guess what happened? At the point the wife started suspecting him. He said, well, I'm sure you just want sex. Let's see how far this is going to last. Alright, so then days became weeks, and weeks became months, and then she noticed that this guy, she had to sit him down saying, God, tell me what's happening, what are you doing? This seems to be working. The guy said something to me. Then that was when the guy that told her that okay, he belongs to this. And I said, and then the guy said something. He said that the hunter became the hunted in his house. All right. When he got to the point where he didn't have to ask for sex, his wife was more than ready. He got to the point that he was running away because he felt that, man, this lady is going to deal with me in this house.
You see, but the thing is, he made it his ambition to wow his wife.
Beautiful, exactly. He made it his ambition to find ways to make her sweep her off her feet. So some of the point we discussed with him are things to be pointing out here.
Okay, right. These things are doable.
Things are doable. The moment we have this belief that where there is a will,
there is a way.
There is a way. You can always find a way. All right, you can always find a way. The first basic fact we like to talk about is marriage. People will say our marriage is different. All right, we are good. Everything is fine.
We're
immune to all these things you guys are talking about. We respect that, to be honest. We respect that, but statistics also shows us that politicians get divorced, pastors get divorced, teachers get divorced. In fact, the United States is where the highest number of books are being published, yet they have one of the highest rates of divorce.
Yeah, and did you leave out marriage counselors?
Marriage counselors get divorced. The number of marriage counselors that have read their book that were like, wow, then the next thing you heard that they're divorced, you're like, wow, what happened? All right, so one of the biggest illusion is to say that, I'm immune to this. All right, and then things begin to spiral down gradually without you knowing. I've had a number of couples that the man just woke up one day and just walked away from the house. Nobody could get in touch with him. He just thought that he has had enough. The woman didn't know what happened. So how do things get to that point? All right, so we call this the ostrich syndrome. And just bury your head in the sand, thinking that no one can see you. All right, so we must be able to.
The truth is, marriage works based on principles.
Exactly.
Okay, so if it's not just enough to have a good marriage, get married to the right person, you need to implement the principles.
Very true. Very true. In other words, if we violate this principle, it doesn't matter the title that we carry. We're going to experience the same consequences. So there are basic principles. There are universal laws that marriage as an institution rides on, which we must understand and respect and play by.
Okay, and the next one is marriage is impossible. The blame syndrome.
Yes.
Now you touched on the positive mindset concerning marriage. Okay, in the previous slide.
Yes.
Now in this case, this one is negative. Some people just think marriage is impossible. Marriage. People who appear like they're happy are simply pretending.
Yes.
There must be something they're hiding.
Exactly.
Because I've tried this. And with that mindset, you attract what you think.
All right. So basically, when you look at this, we always like to say that who we are is what we bring into the marriage. Marriage as an institution is a perfect institution. Now, it's the people that come into it at different levels. Some come into it with good developed communication skills. Some come into it with poor communication skills. Some come into it with good negotiation and conflict management skills. Some don't. So, how you come into the relationship of marriage determines the experience that you have. So, the focus is not about, marriage is impossible. The focus is, are you the kind of person that can have a good experience? The marriage the picture, the vision you have about your marriage, do you have the competencies, the skill set to bring this to pass? All right, in collaboration with your spouse.
And the truth is, as you become better, your marriage becomes better.
Your marriage becomes better because you are the ones who make it. That's why they say every marriage is unique, because the individuals are unique. All right. This one talks about holding on.
The hope syndrome.
The hope syndrome.
Okay, we just sit down there and we're hoping. Things are not the way we want it, but we're hoping things will get better.
Exactly.
Just hanging in there. Oh, I'm going to be in this marriage. Some people stay on. Well, I've got children. Where do I go to? But then they're hoping that at some point this man is going to change. Okay, and like you would often say, hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
Right.
I think that was Mike Murdoch that pointed that out, that hope is not a strategy. You can't rely on hope. That's where we bring about the point of, you need to find out, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? Remember the story that we shared earlier on? This gentleman wasn't focusing on, I need to correct my wife, I need to make her do better, I need to make her stop doing this. He said, what can I do better? What has she been complaining about? What can I change? All right, you know what? I'm going to help her around the house. I'm going to do this. All right, I can't cook. Let me go on YouTube to learn how to make pastries, how to make this. And then he was making the necessary effort. Then when his wife saw the changes that he was making, at a point she started, wow, what's happening here? And then she started coming around, and the relationship started improving and moving higher and higher.
You know, sometimes you find people who say, I'm willing to change, to see things change in my marriage. But my spouse is not willing. What can I do?
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good question. Now, in a situation like that, we need to also understand that we don't have, you as an individual, you don't have control over your spouse. You only have control over your own behavior. All right, one of the most frustrating things to do is to try to change your spouse. I saw a quote yesterday somebody posted on our forum, and he said, you know, have you observed how difficult it is to change yourself? If you've observed how difficult it is to change yourself, now imagine how difficult it is to change somebody else. All right, so the who you have responsibility to change is yourself. All right, you must remove the whatever is blurring your vision before you try to help somebody else remove what is blurring his or her vision. So the responsibility is you have control over yourself. You don't have control over somebody else. All right, so when you change, hopefully your spouse will meet you along the way. Now, even if that doesn't happen, you do your own part. Take your focus off your spouse. Take on your responsibility.
Forget about your rights.
Exactly. And let me quickly point that out, because now, why I like the question you asked is because in a relationship like this, where you're making effort but your spouse wouldn't be bothered, can't be bothered. All right, so there are two different ways of looking at this. Is either you enforce your right or you enforce your responsibility. You need to focus on, what is my responsibility? My responsibility is my responsibility. How do I respond? I have the ability to respond. What am I going to do? Then you choose that, and then you begin to move on. Right. Okay. One of the irreconcilables, some of the things that leads to irreconcilable differences is money. Money habits.
Big issue.
Very massive issue. Money habits and decisions. All right. When you find yourself in a situation where couples, we've had a number of discussions with couple, and you see one person, you know, doing all the bringing in the money, and then the other person is just squandering and just spending. All right. Or you see couple who don't understand their money personalities, and they may ask, what do I mean by money personality? All right. For example, some people are spenders. They just believe that, you know what, as long as the money is there, let's spend it. God will provide.
Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Tomorrow will take care of itself. I wouldn't be bothered, but I can't be bothered. All right. Some other people are savers. They know what, I don't know what tomorrow holds. This one I'm holding, let me hold it. So sometimes they have a lot of money, but they are living like someone who doesn't have anything. Some people are like, so there has to be a balance. You must understand your spouse, understand their money personality, and know that some of these things are influenced by their background. All right, and find a way to meet yourself somewhere, so that you can walk through it. There's a story I like to share here. There was this woman that used to be a client of mine. All right, and then they had a discussion with me some years ago. She went in to borrow some money in the realms of millions, and she wanted to give more like a pleasant supply to the husband, and she invested into this business without consulting with the husband. And unfortunately, the business went bust. Wow. She lost all the millions. The banks were calling on her because they run a family business. Both of them run a family. She couldn't take money from the family business. She was borrowing money from other people just to cover up so that the husband would not be disappointed. It became a huge mess. It took months and months of counseling and talking before their marriage was restored, because it became a huge irreconcilable issue in their relationship, such that any little thing that goes on, say the blame game, that's how you did the other time, that's how you did the other time, so these are some of the things that we need to look at and walk through.
On major issues, you should have discussions.
Exactly. There should be an agreement. There should be an agreement between both of you, and say, how do we work this out? And when it happens, where do we go from here?
Yeah, because such issues can affect the trust in your marriage.
Very true. And trust is a key pillar of marriage. Right. Let's look at
the next one, external relationships and activities. Now, we're not discounting external relationships with your friends, your families. Everyone needs good support systems.
Exactly.
Right. But the focus here is to make your marriage priority.
Exactly.
Right, like we would often say, the next relationship after a relationship with God is that the relationship you have with your spouse.
Yes.
So you need to give that attention. Okay. Now, I've had this experience of some women complaining. Oh, he knew I had friends before I got married, and I was really close to my friends. Why is he complaining now?
Exactly.
Okay, he has a right to complain because he might be thinking you're giving them too much of your time than you're giving to him.
Exactly.
Okay, so the word we will throw in there is balance.
Balance is the key word here.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
You want to say something?
Yes. Okay. Balance is the key word here, because if you look at it, we're not saying, dump all your friends. You need some form of connection. You need some form of balance. You need some form of relationship outside your spouse. However, the moment you get married, you enter into a covenant with someone, there has to be some level of reorganization of your priorities, reorganization of your relationships. Even your parents can't take the regular position they used to take. So after God, it's your spouse comes to your marriage. That's why there has to be a living for that to be a cleaving. All right, so you must leave your parent emotionally disconnect, mentally disconnect, financially disconnect, to be able to cleave to your spouse, to become one flesh, to be the one unified union.
Yeah, you find some men after marriage, there's a problem, and they're calling mommy.
Yeah, right. So that's disrespectful to the woman. You're supposed to sit down together and say, how do we work this out? How do we solve this problem?
Right.
All right. So that's why you need to disconnect yourself and then reprioritize your relationship. You keep your friends, but your spouse comes first.
Now, when we talk about activities, there might be good activities.
Yes.
Okay. Someone might say, "Oh, why is he complaining? I was at church. Does he not care about my relationship with God?" Okay. But like we said earlier, balance. Okay. For those activities, there might be some people are addicted to games, video games, right?
Football, chatting, gisting. All right. Even as regarding relationship, not even your children can take priority over your spouse, because sometimes women sometimes fall into this. After they give birth, they just forget about the man, forget about his sexual need. If he's asking for it, you're like, are you okay? All right.
I have to be all night. I have to be up all night.
Exactly.
Taking care of this.
There's a better way of putting it, so you don't just damage his ego, because he is still number one. He
Yeah.
is still number one. Okay, let's look at the next thing here. I beg your pardon. Oops. Yes.
Mismatched sexual expectations.
Mismatched sexual expectations. All right. So, usually this is an aspect where couples often have a lot of issues, right? Because sometimes they don't get to discuss what's your expectation, what is my expectation, how many times do we do this, how do we go about this, and sometimes this causes a lot of challenges. And I remember someone who was sharing a story and said that the husband was asking for anal sex, and she said, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I've gone online to research. The NHS says this and this and this about anal sex. The read that it causes damage to to the muscle in the anal area, causing a lot of discomfort. And the man wasn't happy. He was all over the place. And I said to him, you know what? Now, as counselors, we don't say what happens to your marriage. You decide what happens to your marriage. However, anytime you're handling things like these as gradually spiraling into irreconcilable differences, like we mentioned earlier on, it's either you go the way of your right to demand sex because now you're married, or your responsibility as the more mature person in that relationship and say, you know what, in as much as I want this, but if you feel it's going to hurt you, I'm willing to let go of my rights here until you come around, or until you find a way around what we're talking about. But on the issue of sex, we always believe that if it's anything that demeans your spouse, if it's anything that physically or emotionally hurts them, if anything that leaves them worse off, I think it's something that you should probably stop doing.
Yes.
Otherwise, at the end of the day, what's the point of your spouse feeling used at the end of the day? It's just one person getting the pleasure.
Talking about anal sex,
yes,
I know a young lady who had to go through series of operations, because that part of her body was badly damaged. Why would you want to inflict such pain on someone you claim you love? That's not love.
All right, so let's look at the next point here. All right.
Interesting one.
Household responsibilities.
Look at the man.
Yeah, just chilling and
look
cruising.
at her picking up the linen.
All right. Sometimes the other way around, where you see the woman just chilling out with her friends and the man is doing all the work. So, generally about relationship, this is another aspect where it's many years ago it wasn't really an issue, right? Because people just knew that women will do this, the man will do this, but this is the 21st century where men and women are equally busy.
Yes.
Men and women are equally working. Men and women are equally contributing to the family. So it now changes the dynamics, and you have to bring up to that point where we have to discuss and say, you know what? How do we navigate through this? How do we work around this, such that the burden is not tilted on one person? All right, not one person doing all the work.
Because when the burden is on that person, it affects the relationship.
It affects the relationship.
The person is stressed.
It affects the sex.
Exactly. I was going there.
Yeah, it affects the sex. It affects the parenting. People lose temper, high blood pressure, all kind of stuff happen. Let me just ask you, do you want to share with them, how do we handle this aspect of
marriage? For us, there are no roles.
Yeah.
Okay. You just get in and do the work. Whatever has to be done has to be done.
Has to be done.
Okay. Yeah. There's no defined, yes, you do the laundry, you do the cooking, you just get in, there's something to be done, you do it. And I think if spouses get to that point, life will be a lot easier, because I'll then realize that whatever I do in the house, I'm doing for us.
Exactly, right? That's the point.
If there's something to be done, I do it before you get back. You have time to come back. We have more time to talk.
Exactly.
And not spend time doing things.
Exactly.
Okay, but if I have to leave the work, I say, oh yeah, that's yours. When you get back, you do it. It's not fun that way. Exactly. But at the end of the day, we would still emphasize that you do what works for your marriage.
Exactly.
Okay, do not be quick to adopt traditions in other marriages and say, oh yes, since it's done this way,
exactly,
we have to do it this way. You gradually get to these things.
Exactly.
With wisdom as well and some talking.
So the bottom line is understand your spouse, understand what works for your marriage, and carry it out. For us, I do laundry, she does laundry. I do cooking, she does cooking. Of course, she's more experienced as regarding cooking, so she helps out a lot in that area. We do shopping together. We do a number of things together. All right. Sometimes her schedule will change. It will tilt more on me. For the time being, I'll carry out all those stuff, do laundry, do cooking, do cleaning, all that. Sometimes my schedule will change. Her own schedule will change, and then it's all like that. Like she said, at the end of the day, know that whatever you're doing for your marriage. You're doing for yours.
Yes.
Both of you. Okay.
The final one.
All right, communication pattern. All right, can you take a look at the the people on the table?
Do you know it's so cheeky that he's even smiling at whoever he's chatting with? Oh, she's smiling.
She's smiling as well. All right, so now they are both in the same physical space.
Yes.
But they are not in the same emotional state.
That's true.
All right, so people can be under the same roof, but they are miles and miles and miles away from each other. All right, so you need to be able to look at what's your own communication pattern. All right, when you speak with your spouse, are you just waiting for them to finish, for him or her to finish, so that you can say what you have, or are you actually actively listening? That's a good question. Also, do you leave communication things that are supposed to be addressed? Do you leave them until they pile up? You sweep them under the carpet? All right, until they move from reactive to radioactive issues? All right. Now I want to ask, what's your radioactive issue? What's your reactive issue? Reactive communication is when you just, someone says something to you and you just say whatever comes to your mind, not processing whether it's going to hurt the person, whether it's best presented. You just snap. Maybe because you are stressed, maybe because the person has offended you. That's a reactive communication. Too many unresolved issues and conflicts that have been pending. All right. Another one is radioactive. Radioactive communication is when there's a specific issue that any time you talk about it, you may be laughing and having a nice time, but the moment you talk about that issue, there is an explosion. There's an eruption. For some people, it's about in-laws. Oh, an in-law is coming over. People go ballistic. Sometimes about money. I need to send money to this person. People go ballistic. Sometimes about disciplining of children. Both of you have different ways of disciplining. So you need to be able to look at the specific thing that is causing radioactive issue and have a discussion. We often recommend a number of things. I'll mention one here. What we call date nights. We have a date night. We don't do our own date night every week. We'll have date night every day. In fact, every morning we wake up after prayers, we're talking all through the day. This is what we're going to do on this issue. This is what we're going to do on that issue. This is what we're going to do on that issue. At night, when we come back, we talk hours. During the day, we talk. So a lot of things are resolved. We are defining and refining our vision on specific issues. So it limits the conflict that comes up, disagreement that comes up, because already I know what my wife's stance is on an issue. She knows what my stance, and she just goes on with it, even if for example, she's unable to reach me at a specific time. All right. So this is very, very important, and the most important communication style that I would like to recommend is proactive. Where you sit down before anything comes up. You say, you know what, we're going to be having a child. How do we want to discipline? If they do this, how are we going to do it? What's our family vision? How can we work around it? How do we want to handle money? You discuss ahead of time. And then people stick with their own part, and then things work out smoothly.
In communication as well, beware of your tone and your attitude, how you say it.
Exactly.
You probably do not even need to say it, but your body language can convey so much.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Like we always say that for example, you have a deadline to meet, you have things you're working on at work, and you say, find time to communicate with me, to call me, to text me. For me, that communicates a lot. That I am on your mind. All right. You have things that are very pressing. All right. Even when it's not convenient. In fact, I believe that it is what you do when it's not convenient that really carries more weight, because sacrifice is a proof of love.
Yes.
The sacrifice you make for a relationship, the commitment you put into a relationship shows the value you place on the person and on that marriage. You must be able to get that.
Okay.
All right.